like a Hellcat. Like a Hellcat.
That's a little bit better. It is a stunner from Fabio Quagliarella. Coming in for Jacko, who's in for Robin and scores.
Ciao ragazzi, and welcome to another edition of Serie Sitdown, World Football Index's podcast of Calcio, told like it is. I'm Frank Crivello. He's Richard Carmen. Ciao, Richard.
Ciao, Frank. How are we doing tonight on not only YouTube, but Facebook and Twitter tonight? We're going everywhere tonight.
Gosh, we're everywhere now.
We're everywhere.
I'm glad I'm glad I combed my hair, and I'm glad I shaved.
And you cleaned your screen there too.
I did. I cleaned my screen. Am I coming in a little clear?
You
My
are.
wife made that comment. She looked at she watched one of our video clips from earlier in the week, and she said, "Will you clean your screen?" So
she's right. She's right.
So
George's in the house. Casey's in the house. Welcome.
Yeah. Welcome. So we have got a very loaded show for you. We are going to recap what happened over the weekend. We are going to preview some midweek Serie A, the big one between Milan and Juve. Also, the slate of games that are taking place at 9 a.m. Eastern. There is a contest on DraftKings, so I'll touch on some interesting plays that you can pick to try to win a little bit of money tomorrow morning if you're going to get up and watch your Calcio. And, of course, the world's most popular hashtag game, Who Won Calcio Twitter. We'll find out this week's winners. A lot to live up to after last week when we did our best of 2020 and relived some pretty funny ones. So, but we have a guest.
We do have a guest.
I think everybody gets sick of listening to us talk all the time. We wanted to bring somebody else on. So
let's bring him right on in.
Yep. I want to welcome to the Serie Sit Down for the first time, and it's a damn shame that we haven't had him on before. We actually tried to, and then he had a prior engagement or Lord knows what else. But he has Miami New Times' Best AM Radio Show 2018. He is on Onside Radio, the Man of the Match show, which you can hear me on from time to time. He is the Inter Miami CF studio host, also co-host of the Calcio Connection podcast, or maybe he's the host and Jerry just tags along. But he is earning his first cap with the Serie Sit Down, and we welcome Alex Dono.
Ciao, guys. It's a pleasure to be on, and hey, I'm glad to be here. I never get tired of hearing you two talk, so even the episodes you don't have a guest are always entertaining, and I hope you guys are doing well.
Yeah,
We appreciate that, man.
We're surviving. We're definitely surviving. But let's talk a little bit, because we can probably segue into the Inter Crotone game by doing this. Let's just get into a little Q&A with Inter for you this season. It's really been a roller coaster. I probably, or you might have a different description than I just gave you. Second in the table, you play before Milan, you win, you go top of the table, then Milan wins, they go back to the top. So you got that fight going on. The Champions League, again, I think for the third straight season, you're one goal away from qualifying for the next round. In this case, you're out altogether. Just talk about what you've seen so far from this season's version of Inter, what gives you hope, but maybe also comment a little on what's making you grouchy about them.
Well, I'm definitely grouchy about the Champions League failure. That was an objective this year, not to win Champions League. Of course, that was not realistic, but to actually make it to the knockout stages, which is something they'd failed to do the last two seasons. That was, I think, a reasonable expectation this year. And as you mentioned, they were literally one goal away from doing that. So I am sour about it. And, Champions League is a big stage. It's nice for teams to be able to represent Serie A on that stage. The other three representatives all made it through to the knockout stages, and Inter didn't. So that was a troubling thing. As far as what gives me hope, it's kind of a double-edged sword not being in Europe at this point. You mentioned not only crashing out of Champions League, but not even getting into Europa League with the fourth place finish in the group. That definitely gives Inter an opportunity to focus on one competition, right? Because knockout stages of Champions League was certainly a goal. I think the primary goal for Conte this season was to push and try and win a Scudetto. And I would say that needing less squad rotation moving forward, not having, Thursday games to think about in Europa League, I think is going to be a benefit to Inter. And I think that's going to take a little bit of pressure off the January transfer window. I know that a lot of people are fantasizing about certain players arriving in January. They're probably not going to do much due to financial constraints. They may not need to do a whole lot because they're not going to have to be, playing extra games during, European weeks. And, as far as on the pitch, I can take hope in the fact that lately Inter have been scoring goals for fun. The attack has been working out pretty well. I think it's good news that even though Romelu Lukaku left the Crotone match with an apparent muscular injury around the 75th minute, apparently it's not as serious as they thought it could be. So he still might sit against Sampdoria for precautionary reasons, but I don't think he's going to miss as much time as some people feared that he would. Lautaro Martinez just had an excellent performance, which was nice to see. Inter have been getting goals at other spots as well. So that's certainly what gives me hope. And Romelu Lukaku, when he's been in, has played like an absolute monster. What gives me a little cause for concern is the defense not keeping clean sheets. I think part of that has been on Samir Handanovic, losing a step in his late 30s, which is kind of a natural thing that's going to happen to an aging goalkeeper. He's made a few mistakes this season. Some of the conceded goals have just been mental lapses. Although when you have Skriniar, De Vrij, and Bastoni as the back three, they tend to do a much better job than various other alternatives in that spot. And then you also have concern with sloppiness from a guy like Arturo Vidal, who is going to be, even though he had a pretty brutal game against Crotone and was benched at halftime, I think he still is going to be looked at to Conte to play an important role the rest of the year. So he's going to have plenty of opportunities to either redeem himself or make more mistakes. But the penalty that he gave up was pretty horrific against Crotone. So conceding goals has certainly been an issue. Scoring goals has not. But Inter have certainly gotten the results lately. They're on a long winning streak in Serie A. If only Milan would actually drop some points, they might have a chance to stay top of the table for more than a few hours. But yeah, I think roller coaster, the phrase that you use, is probably a good way to describe it so far.
Well, let's stick with that term roller coaster. To me, the season for Inter so far has not been as much of a roller coaster as much as the fans have been the roller coaster. I think seeing not only you but many Interisti, talking about Conte, the goods, the bad, the ugly. It seems like, at least from the outside looking in, that the roller coaster ride is more with the fans dealing with Conte and his antics week in and week out versus the game. Because, look, you guys are in second place at the moment, 1 point behind Milan, 6 points ahead of Roma, ahead of Juve. You're in a good spot. For as inconsistent as you guys have been, you are sitting very pretty. And, once you guys do get to that level where you're constantly, you're, 9 wins in a row now. You guys are there. So now you guys are trying to, you're putting pressure on Milan to keep it up. So is it really more the fans that have just been reacting to Conte and his antics all season long?
Yeah, that's a good shout. I think that's a big part of it, because every day I wake up and one of the first things that I do is I check the Inter news wire. I check what the Italian media is talking about. I'm in a couple of different Inter group chat. I check what they're saying, and there's always drama, right? People are always reacting to, this is certainly coming. I think the Christian Eriksen saga is potentially going to come to a close this month if they can find either a buyer or a loan option. But there's been a lot of drama on the Eriksen front in recent months, with Conte subbing him on in the 92nd minute and everyone freaking out. And then, typical Pazze Inter stuff, even after they're winning 7, 8, 9 games in a row, you read the Italian news sites and they're debating whether, Suning is trying to sell Inter and are they financially insolvent, and there are restrictions from the Chinese government. So you can never just have a good week. Like, you can never just have a calm week with Inter, right? I mean, you come off a 6-2 win. Instead of being able to sit back and enjoy it, you're reading these headlines about what, decrepit old players Antonio Conte is looking to sign, and who's unhappy at the club, and how the club, doesn't have enough money to spend anything in January. There are always things like that. And I think that the Inter fan base have a little bit of PTSD, because for the past 10 years, more has gone wrong than right. So you at a certain point, you feel like I'm just not allowed to have nice things, and you start to look at the glass half empty. So yeah, it's always sometimes I think I'd have a lot more sanity if I just spent a couple of weeks just either muting the phrase, the word Inter on Twitter, and just not reading anything, and just watching the games and not worrying about all the other stuff.
I kind of tend to, I think I said it just a few weeks ago. I said, as a fan of the NFL's Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm getting an idea of what it's like to be an Inter fan. They should be winning a game they should be winning, and they're figuring out how to lose. It was against Richard's Washington Footies. So, it is what it is. Now, the Mercato, we talked about this last week. We tried to go through like every team and what we think is the highest priority. You talked about the defense being a weakness of this team at the moment. I think that goalkeeper is something they're going to address. Maybe not now, but I could see them doing it in the summer. There was some talk, about Juan Musso from coming over from Udinese. That's where they got Sami Handanovic. So, there's talk that, if it's Antonio Conte, it's going to be a name. Or it's going to be someone coming from the Premier League even. I mean, does this get old with you guys? I mean, right now the talk is Papu Gomez. From my perspective, and I've even said this on your radio show, where's the fit if you're going to bring him in? But our conclusion is that a proper left wing back needs to be addressed. Right now, patching it with guys like Ashley Young and Ivan Perisic is getting you by, but somebody that can properly do it and do it at the work rate that Antonio Conte demands. Where are you at with what Inter's needs are in January, and what do you think is realistic to expect?
Yeah, you're right about left wing back, at least from my point of view. The odd thing about it is that when you read Mercato rumors, for some reason, that is the position that gets brought up least with Inter, and I'm very puzzled as to why. Mm-hmm. Now, I know that left wing back in general is, I think, in the entire world of football, one of the hardest positions to fill. There just aren't that many quality left wing backs. Yeah. And so as a result of that, for the past year, even going back to last January, and this goes to what you're saying about Premier League players, you always see the same names kind of very loosely linked to Inter, and it tends to be Chelsea players that Conte managed a couple of years ago, right? I mean, Emerson Palmieri always gets put in that conversation. Marcos Alonso always gets put in that conversation. But I certainly don't see either arriving in January. I don't keep up with foreign transfer rumors as much as I should, but I know I saw a lot of stuff linking Alonso to Atletico Madrid. So I don't know if that's considered a done deal or not, but I certainly don't see his name linked to Inter a lot. And then as far as Emerson Palmieri, who may end up in Serie A, I just don't think he'll end up with Inter because, Inter would want to do a loan for him. Yeah. And it just sounds like Chelsea is hard. They have a hard stance on not loaning him out. So I don't think that's something that they're interested in doing. And so for whatever reason, I'm not expecting a significant name to be brought in at left wing back. The position is a little bit problematic. Ivan Perisic is a decent player at times, but he's not a left wing back. I mean, he's a left winger. There's not really a spot for him in a Conte formation. And Ashley Young, unfortunately, at 35 years old, he's just he's not consistent enough. Every once in a blue moon can put in a brilliant performance. He had a few of those last season, has not really had one so far this year. What I'm interested to see if Conte tries, and I even saw this in a couple of the rumored starting 11s for Sampdoria. I'm not necessarily expecting it, but I did see, a possibility of Matteo Darmian starting at left wing back tomorrow. He is versatile enough. He can play both sides. The only times he's played this year have been at right wing back in place of Hakimi. At this point, Hakimi's playing very well, so he's not someone you're going to go out of your way to put on the bench right now. So maybe Darmian can be tried at left wing back because Ashley Young had has had a couple of pretty horrific performances as of late, and Perisic is just not really a fit there. So I wonder if Darmian's going to get a few looks. And then outside of left wing back, I think the two biggest needs, I kind of laugh at everyone and it was mostly people who don't follow Inter that closely, who really thought heading into this season that the midfield was perfect, pristine, right? Because you've got Christian Eriksen, you just got Vidal, you've got Sensi, you've got Brozovic, Barella, and obviously Barella has been fantastic, and Brozovic seems to be back in form, so he's been much better as of late. But you can't trust Sensi to really stay fit. He has his injury issues. Christian Eriksen is essentially he's completely out of the squad now at this point, and Arturo Vidal is a hot mess. And so, I think you need someone in the midfield. I kind of agree with you that Papu Gomez doesn't exactly fit the profile. I think they need someone who is a little bit more defensively adept, or maybe more of a Mezzala type. Yeah. I don't think attacking midfielder is something that really fits Conte's formation, but I think they do need help in the midfield, and they need a fourth striker. I think they want to bring in a veteran because Pinamonti has not earned Conte's trust, and also for Pinamonti's sake, he's still young. So if Conte doesn't want to use him, he should be loaned out, because if he's not getting any time with Inter and he's in his early 20s, the only way this kid is going to improve is if he plays. So if you can find, a lower table club to loan him out to, he was with Genoa the last couple of years before Inter brought him back. They bought him back. So I think loan him out, try to get him some game time experience somewhere else. And then you have to wonder, okay, what do they do at that fourth striker spot? And the horrific report that Di Marzio dropped yesterday gave every Inter fan vomiting attacks, flashbacks, when you see Eder linked to a return to Inter.
I love it.
Well, I think Sky Punjab actually released this earlier, about a year ago. Right?
I really haven't had anybody in Serie A to be angry about since he left. So if he's back into our lives, I would be angry on your behalf.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and the weird thing about it is, first of all, I don't think it's going to happen, only because it seems like not plan B or C, it's like plan Z would be to bring Eder back. Like, I don't think that's the club's priority. I just think it may end up being kind of a remarriage of convenience. As horrific as it would be, I try and talk some Interisti off a ledge, because hypothetically, if they were to bring back Eder as the fourth striker, you have to ask yourselves, how much would he really play, right? Because with no Champions League or Europa League, minimal squad rotation, they've had Pinamonti has been the fourth striker for the last 4 months or whatever it's been since the season started, and he's barely gotten in any game. So like Conte does not go that deep in the striker rotation unless there's knock on wood, catastrophic injury issues. So even if Eder were to be brought back, as terrible as it may sound, he may only actually see the pitch a couple of times, and it would probably be like a 88th minute type of substitution when the game is already decided. Like I really don't think the guy would see much action if he came back. One
of those guys that would just get handed a towel with his initials embroidered on it, basically. That's all. And here you go. Here's your towel. Go wave it. It's even got your initials on it. So.
Yeah.
Well, for those who are listening on Twitter and Facebook, thank you for joining us tonight. And those on YouTube, thank you also. And if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to the page. Alex, let's talk about the elephant in the room. You just brought it up. Conte has this knack of bringing in older players, either players he worked with at Chelsea or just older players. You mentioned Eder. We've heard Giaccarini, we've heard Pele. I mean, who's next? Barzagli. I mean, he's gonna bring back the whole Azzurri team.
Pele also.
Yeah. So, what's up with this fascination he has? Is it just the trust issues? Why he's going with the older players? I'm like, he's constantly recycling players, and it leaves you, the fans, Inter fans, and even the other stops he was before, scratching their head like, are we going backwards or forwards? What are we doing here? You know,
I think Conte, and he's not the only manager who does this, of course, but Conte puts such a premium on players he knows can go to war and kind of play his style. Like Conte, we know he's not very tactically flexible. He's not very emotionally flexible. You know, we've seen, you know, what he went through the saga with Diego Costa at Chelsea a few years ago. You see what's happened with Christian Eriksen. Once you get into Conte's doghouse, very few people actually come out from that. Like when you're in the Conte doghouse, you're dead to him. And so I really think that he puts an extra value and an extra premium on players he knows can conform with the Conte style. I mean, because we know what he wants on the pitch. He essentially wants like drones. Like he wants players he can control. He wants guys he knows are going to, you know, he doesn't allow for a whole lot of tactical creativity. You've got to be at the right place at the right time. When you're moving without the ball, you always have to be where Conte wants you to be. You know, if you're a midfielder, he wants you tracking back. He doesn't want you kind of to be like a free-range chicken out there. He wants to know exactly where you are at all times. And I think once Conte, at the various stops he's been in, you know, Juventus years ago, you know, he worked with guys like Eder at the Italian national team for the Euros, and the players he worked with at Chelsea. I think once Conte has identified, okay, these are the players I know can run my style and mesh with me, and I'm not going to have problems with them on or off the pitch. I think he values maybe revisiting some of those guys. Like if there are certain players that, you know, that he knows, hey, like he and I had a great relationship, even if it was 4, 5, 6 years ago, and that player is now in his 30s. I don't think Conte cares. Like an Arturo Vidal. I mean, unfortunately, Conte didn't get the memo that this is not, you know, this isn't 2014 Arturo Vidal. This is 2020, 2021 Arturo Vidal. But in Conte's mind, why can't we just rekindle the romance, right? So I think he values those players he knows can mesh with him.
Excellent. I mean, it's clear. I mean, it's right now. I mean, there's no European distraction. There is the Coppa Italia. It's Scudetto or bust at this point right now, and I think that the team was built with those intentions. A lot of people predicted them to win the Scudetto, that they would be the team most likely to unseat Juventus this season. Richard is among them. Is that the sentiment at this point? I mean, it's got to be clear. It's Scudetto or failure now at this point. Yeah,
it is. I think that's the way most Inter supporters look at it. That's probably the way Conte looks at it. That's probably the way most in the Inter board and in the front office look at it. Especially being bounced from Champions League. If you know, and it's weird because I can't even remember. It's been, you know, damn near a decade since the last time Inter were in a season where you're thinking Scudetto is the objective, Scudetto or bust. Is the last several years it's always been try to be top 4, try to be in a Champions League spot. Now they really do have expectations to win the league, and it's a little bit frightening because expectations create pressure, and Inter does not deal well with pressure, right? Usually when the pressure is highest is when you get those crazy sort of results. But yeah, I think that honestly has to be the goal. I mean, when Antonio Conte is being paid about twice as much or more than any other current manager in Serie A, I think, and they've gone out and made some of these weird signings, like, oh, and Conte wants Kolarov, we'll bring in Kolarov. He wants to bring in Vidal, we'll do whatever we can to bring in Vidal. I think that, you know, with all those requests that they've fulfilled, that's got to be the expectation.
Sure.
I think, well, before we get to the question in the chat, it's crazy what we've seen with Conte, and I mean, he obviously knows how to win. It just the way he does it is not the best way. He's not thinking about the team in general. So like I saw some questions from Interisi, like, why is he trying to build for the future? And honestly, he's not going to be here in the future. He knows that. So he's just going to build in the now and try to win and, you know, win and get out. It's probably the way he's going to do it. If he has a really strong team that wins by many points, he'll probably stick around to try to repeat or something. But I see him winning and leaving Inter, and he's probably not really planning for the future. He doesn't really care for the 5 years down the road. He's really care about the next 2 years, maybe 3 years. Looking at the question here from Casey in the chat, he says, who does Inter have in line if Handanovic is out? We talked about, you know, maybe bringing in Musso as a backup, but who's there now? Because that's where they're going to be hurting if they lose Handanovic to injury or something.
Yeah, they're better in that department this season than a season ago. They brought back Andre Radu from Genoa, who is he's not a top tier Serie A starter, but he's serviceable. I mean, if Handanovic were to have to miss some time, I believe Radu could do the job, right? I wonder. I mean, it's been a while since Radu's actually played, but with some of the mishaps Handanovic has had, sometimes you wonder how much worse would it really be, right? But no, I mean they're better in that department. A season ago, as we all remember, because he had to start a handful of games. Daniele Padelli was the backup. He's still with the club, but he's the third stringer.
Yeah,
and quite honestly, it was embarrassing. I mean, it was absolutely embarrassing watching Padelli in goal last year. He was making so many rudimentary mistakes, like things you would expect a Serie D keeper to be doing. Like it's, and he used to be a decent keeper years and years ago. I just think that so many years of being a second and third stringer at Inter, he just lost his fastball because he hadn't played regular football in so long. But I mean, it was humiliating. I mean, watching him cost Inter points and cost Inter victories and in some of the games that Padelli started. So they did get a little bit better in that spot. I don't believe that anyone considers Radu to be the heir to the Handanovic throne. I think that it's going to be perhaps Musso, who you brought up from Udinese. I think that there's also always been rumors behind the scenes about Cragno, who
I was going to ask you about him. Yeah.
I think that's another one that they'd be interested in, and those are the primary two names that you hear. I haven't heard too many others thrown around.
Yeah, it to me, Musso makes the most sense. I mean, it just as far as a career progression for him too. Somebody that has aspirations of being Argentina's number one someday.
Yeah.
And then also you've got to think there's got to be some kind of relationship or connection with Javier Zanetti there, in the backroom staff to maybe have some influence. I think that a guy like Zanetti would get Musso's attention. So, for me, that makes the most sense. If Inter plan on going, I think that they finish this season with Handanovic, but I think that it's something that they address in the summer. What we do, Alex, as custom here at Serie A Sit Down, is we put the spotlight on your team's game from the weekend. So we spotlight Inter and Crotone. It also was nice that
the first game.
It was the first game of Sunday. It also was nice that it had the most goals. To talk about. So, let's just start by asking you here about their formation. I mean, it's Antonio Conte. You know what you're getting. It's a 3-man defense. It's essentially a 5-man midfield, including 2 wingbacks and then 2 up top. So it's Handanovic, Skriniar, De Vrij, Pastoni across the back. And then the midfield of Hakimi as a right wing back, Ashley Young left wing back, and then the 3-man midfield this time was Nicola Barella, Marcelo Brozovic, and then Arturo Vidal gets a turn over Roberto Gagliardini, or as we're calling him, Bobby Gags. And we can't claim that. No. I think that's among your interfolk, but we're taking it.
Yeah.
So. And then the 2-man attack of Romelu Lukaku and Lautaro Martinez, pretty standard. But let me ask you about Bastoni, because I think that he's made, as much as Inter have had their issues defensively, Bastoni I think has been someone that's been rock solid for them this season.
Yeah, what amazes me about Bastoni, it goes without saying he's really solid defensively. But what really amazes me about him is how comfortable he is on the ball. I mean, sometimes you watch him when he's coming forward with the attack, and I kind of have to do a double take, like, oh, okay, that's Bastoni dribbling right now. That's Bastoni trying to assist in the final third. He's very comfortable coming forward, and Conte seems comfortable enough to let him creep forward attacking wise a little bit. And even when he's playing from the back, there are certain times in games, and in a way, this strategy can frustrate Interisti a little bit when they start sort of bypassing the midfield and playing long balls out of the back to Lukaku. certain points in the game where that becomes the tactic, where they're really skipping over the midfield completely, and Bastoni is playing long balls, 70, 80 yards up the pitch to Lukaku. But I give the kid credit because he plays an accurate long ball as well. Every now and again, he's not perfect. Every now and again, he'll make a little bit of a marking mistake defensively. Right. So there are certain times where you can scrutinize him a little bit. But him being so young, I think that there's a good chance he works through some of those mistakes. Like, still, I'd consider the most solid guy defensively to be De Vrij. Skriniar has his moments. He also has had some poor games the last couple of years, but the guy with the most potential, a year and a half ago, I would have been raving even more about Skriniar's potential. But at this point, Bastoni is the guy I look at and say, he's really going to be the rock for years to come.
Yeah. Molding into a Francesco Acerbi, in my opinion, when I see what he does for Lazio, he's on the left side of the three-man defense. He'll come forward. He'll deliver some crosses. He can also hit some, some long-range passes, among a variety of other things. It seems like that's a pattern that he's following, which, considering what Acerbi has meant to Lazio, that's not a bad pattern to follow. Yeah. The game itself got very interesting very early. Crotone would score in the 12th minute. And, this is where it's Pazza Inter. Not only do you fall behind a team that you're heavily favored against at home, you fall behind to a guy who is a former Milan trainee. Nicola Zanolato scoring to put Crotone in front by a goal to nil. First 12 minutes flow of that game, is that one of those where you just say, not worried, a lot of game left, or is it one of those where you kind of sweat a little bit? How do you deal with, a match that you're heavily favored and you give up a goal that early? What's your mindset when something like that happens?
I mean, it's aggravating because that's been a trend for Inter. They tend to open games attacking and then conceding on the first chance given up. It's really been a common pattern. But it's for as many times this year as we've seen it. When it comes that early, knowing how Inter have been able to score recently, I wasn't worried about it. I was actually more annoyed when they hit their penalty kick, which I think made it 2-2, if not mistaken. That then going into halftime tied, it was getting a little bit tense. But as far as the first goal went, it really, you look at it as more of an inconvenience than anything else. And if memory serves, it was a defensive breakdown. I think after a short corner was when they scored that goal, and that was just sloppy in defense. I mean, the second goal given up was a horrific error to give up the PK, but the first goal, it's always aggravating not to, 12 minutes in, okay, definitely not going to be a clean sheet against the worst team in the league. So that's a little bit annoying, but I knew there'd be more goals in the game after that.
Nice assist by Junior Messias on that goal. You talk about not being worried because, there was a picture has been going around the internet, the Twitter this week of the top 5 leagues, the teams that created the most chances, and Inter's one of the most, one of the teams that creates the most opportunities in the game, most quality opportunities too. So to your point, they may give up a goal early, but the chances are they're going to put something on net that good chances they're going to score too. So,
yep. And normal service would get resumed in the 19th minute. Romelu Lukaku playing in Lautaro Martinez to make it 1-1. 12 minutes later, and this is a game that I think suited Inter because Crotone had more of the ball, and Crotone seems to play like they want to have a little bit more possession. For a team like Inter, they love that. And I think that as this game, one of the things that I think that Crotone paid for dearly was just their line was just a bit too high defensively when they were in possession. And I mean, it's just a cardinal sin against a team like Inter with what they can boast going forward. 31st minute was an own goal by Luca Moroni, but it was a counter where Barella bombed forward along the left-hand side. He got played in, puts the ball across. Moroni tucks it in. It would have been a Lautaro goal if Moroni wasn't there. Yep. He was in great position. But just when you think you can relax, I'm not trying to beat you up here, Alex, but this is this is Inter, and this is what we get when we talk about these highlights. Here we go. Arturo Vidal doing Arturo Vidal things, and careless foul in the penalty area, awarding a penalty against Arkadiusz Recha, and it was Vladimir Golimic making it 2-2 at halftime. And I've seen I mean, throughout the Milan banter era, there were games like this where Milan controlled things, controlled possession, but all of a sudden the other team just comes back and gets one, and the whole psyche is shot.
Yeah.
2-2 for me at halftime. There's still goals in this game, and you basically, how do you approach it? It's kind of one of those, okay, we're starting to lift off here. We're starting to generate some things, but now all of a sudden they get this because Arturo Vidal did it again.
Here's my thing, and let me talk to the 2-2 before I talk about Arturo Vidal. The only reason why I'm a little bit worried being 2-2 in that game, I start to get flashbacks of both of the Shakhtar matches in Champions League where Inter did, despite out creating Shakhtar about 10-1 in opportunities on goal, weren't able to find the back of the net. So that creeps into the back of your head a little bit, right? To think about a dumb penalty given up, to give up your 1-goal advantage. And then, hey, we know that even if this team is creating chances, there's a chance they could hit a cold streak. I've seen it happen before this year. So it was a little, obviously it would turn out a completely different way, but it was aggravating being 2-2 at halftime because you wonder, even if they create 15 more shots on target in this game, are they going to find a way to screw that up? Yeah. As far as Arturo Vidal goes, this I think the second penalty that he created this year, and you think about when he got sent off in the Real Madrid game, the second one in Champions League. He's so far this season, it's been a net negative with him, and it was really, really careless, stupid foul to commit in the box. And it's one of those things where I know when he was brought in late in the summer transfer window, there were a number of Interisti who they really hated the signing. I was not one of them. I actually liked the signing. I thought, okay, this is a guy who is, exiting his prime, but theoretically still in his physical prime. He's been a world-class player in the past. He's going to bring experience into the midfield. He's got a relationship with Conte. Like, there were a lot of reasons why I was excited for it, and there's still time to turn it around with him, but he's done more harm than good so far, to be quite honest. I think that his big issue as of late, some might say, oh, he's just a finished player. I don't think so. I think that the big issue that's been plaguing him is, coming off of some injury issues. I think his fitness is really poor, and with his fitness being so poor, like if you really watched him in that Crotone match, aside from the penalty given up, he was really sucking wind, was really huffing and puffing, had a couple of horrific touches prior to that. The guy just looked exhausted to me, and the more tired you are, when you're already a physical, kind of reckless player like Arturo Vidal, when you're extremely tired, you're going to make stupid mistakes and reckless tackles, reckless challenges like that. So I think his fitness has really been what's been betraying him so far. And you could hear, Conte yelling some choice words at him. It's one of those benefits you get when there's no crowd and the microphone is going to pick up the coaches, to actually hear Conte unhappy with Arturo Vidal. Arturo must have screwed up, because that's one of Conte's favorites. So if Conte is yelling at Vidal, it's bad. Yep.
Indeed. So we get out to the second half, and that becomes all Inter on the score sheet. Again, letting Crotone have a little bit more of the ball, being comfortable with that, and just trying to catch him. And I mean, when you see a lot of these goals, that's really what happened. In the 57th minute, after some nice hold-up play by Romelu Lukaku, he finds Brozovic, who finds Lautaro. It makes it 3-2. 64th minute is a goal of the week candidate for me. Romelu Lukaku scores an absolute man's goal.
Yeah.
Here, using his body, shielding off the defender. I mean, and the defender even tried to foul him.
Yeah, and he couldn't.
He wanted to football, American football.
Poor Luperto. He was a poor attempt.
Luperto. It was Luperto. Okay.
It was.
And tried to was ready to just get sent off. Either he was ready to get sent off to avoid the goal, he was getting ready to get sent off, saying, fuck this, I don't want to mark this guy anymore.
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. And Lukaku scores to make it 4-2. Lautaro would get his hat trick in the 78th minute, and then just for good measure in the 87th, Achraf Hakimi, who has been an absolute revelation. I mean, we said once this guy signed for Inter, I said this is the perfect fit signing.
Did Darmian get the assist from the left wing?
He did.
Ooh,
Yes,
I can't remember if he did.
It was Darmian played it across. Yep. Darmian
there you
played
go.
it across, and Hakimi
Yeah,
knocked
you're
it
right.
home.
You're
So
right.
It's a win for Inter, 6-2, an emphatic one. It comes at a little bit of a cost with the Romelu Lukaku injury, and you said it's a muscular problem, but not as serious as thought. Do we know how much he's going to miss?
So the last that I saw, he went through tests, X-rays, imaging, and it was negative. So it's apparently they don't even consider it an injury. But I suspect he's not going to play against Samp just as a precaution, because if there's any soreness to it, at this point he's earned some time off. He's been a horse so far. So I think Conte is most likely going to rest him against Samp. And Alexis Sanchez is fit now, so he'll probably be next to Lautaro up top. Yep. And I think the good news about the injury not being serious is you really want Lukaku to be healthy against Roma at the weekend. So I think that's what we're looking at. I think he's going to sit out. My suspicion, he'll sit out against Samp and play against Roma. Got it.
Now, I feel like the way this game flowed, this perfectly suits Inter, the way this game went. I don't find this Inter team to be a team, and we talked about Roma I talked about Roma like this on Twitter. As Richard will explain as he goes down the batch of games. A game flow like this suits Inter, where they don't mind having a possession inferiority, not like where it's not a 75-25 inferiority, but this was 55-45 nearly in favor of Crotone, which, okay, you can have the ball a little bit, and we're going to see if we can catch you. Because I think that, to me, with the way this Inter team is set up and with the way Conte manages his teams, I think that's their best way of going about their business in a footballing environment. And a game where they monopolize possession, I think they end up having their issues. And a lot of it has to do with, because of that three-man center midfield, there isn't a lot of creativity there. A guy that can really unlock things or play between the lines and get into those half spaces. This is where a Christian Eriksen would come in handy in a 3-4-1-2 shape, but clearly Conte doesn't like his fit in this team. So with the way that Conte approaches this week in and week out, and with the guys that he seems to trust, this feels like this was the perfect game environment for them.
Yeah, and another thing is, you're right to bring up the three-man midfield, but the three-man back line, I think, can also get overexposed. If you're playing a possession-based game and then you're giving up counterattacks, that's when the three-man back line can get a little bit flat-footed if the numbers are even with the attack. So I think that's been an issue that they've had. But as far as giving up some possession, especially effective when you're going up against a provincial side who likes to attack the way Crotone did. So they were really sitting ducks when Inter, took over when they gained possession and were going for more quick, decisive attacks. It really gave Crotone trouble, and it's Inter's bread and butter, because when you have a guy like Lukaku to play long balls to, or when you have a guy as fast as Hakimi, running down the right flank, I think they're finally starting to figure out that they can play long balls into that channel, and he's just going to outrun a left fullback to reach that ball.
No matter what time of game it is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
I don't know. And obviously, as Richard knows, watching him in Bundesliga, better than most. And I'm not sure, quite frankly, why it seemed to take Inter a couple months to figure out that if you play balls into that right channel, he is going to sprint to it, and something good is going to happen. They finally seem to have figured that out. So obviously, if you're going to be attacking that way, your own attacks are only going to take a matter of seconds. So you don't have to build up a lot of possession to do that. So it's, and I've watched and supported different styles of different teams around the world, and, possession-based football can be fun. But, I think giving up some possession can also be fun if teams are decisive. I always say that the most overrated stat in football is possession. It really doesn't matter at the end of the day. What really matters to me are chances created. That's really the bread and butter. And Conte seems to make that work.
Before we move on, there's one question I'm pretty sure we all know the answer to, but we'll ask it anyway. It comes from Twitter. AK21RD says, Alex, who would you rather win, Juve or Inter, considering the standings? Cheers.
I think he meant to say Juve with the Juve Milan.
I think it's Juve or Milan. I think Juve or Milan. Yeah.
This is a really weird one, okay? Because
We got you on at the perfect time, Alex.
Yeah,
I think Inter in a perfect
no,
spot in second place because the pressure is less than if they were in first. That's just me.
I'm going to say if it's between Juve and Milan, obviously both would be painful, but I'm going to say Milan. I really am because I know one of the main reasons why we all know why it would be painful. I mean, crosstown rivals. Milan Twitter is going to get extremely cocky, and there's going to be a lot of banter. But I've got to remember my roots as an Interista. Juventus is public enemy number one. Guys, they've enjoyed enough success, right? I mean, nine straight Scudetti. I don't need them making it a full decade. Yeah. So I'd rather some new blood, right? If there was going to be new blood winning a title, I'd rather it be someone like Atalanta that nobody really hates, like nobody really except
Stevie
for
Stevie,
my co-host.
Yeah,
he hates Atalanta, but if it was going to be somebody else, I'd rather it be a team like, or even Lazio. Lazio nowhere close to it right now. But if it's
wait a second. Do you really want that for a full year? Do you really want be hosting a podcast with an insufferable Jerry Mancini? He's already insufferable enough. Can you imagine if Lazio won a Scudetto? I would have to pray for you every day.
Okay.
Jerry would probably kick me off Calcio Connection. He'd say, "Hey, Lazio, we're champions. I don't need this Interista anymore. I'm just going to talk about Lazio."
Interview himself.
He would.
Well, there are several other games to talk about. Lots of goals. Something about the black and blue jersey that made goals happen this weekend. Atalanta hosting Sassuolo 5-1 victory. First and 11th minute. Nice quick passing by Atalanta. Zapata ended up powering home the goal. 1-0 at that point. Just before halftime, a nice counterattack. Josip Ilicic finds Pessina with a nice volley. Goal of the week candidate. 2-0 at halftime. Coming out of the first half, or out of the second half, I should say, early on, 49th minute, Remo Freuler with a great assist to Zapata for his second. That's a goal of the week candidate there. And then to round it all off, not to round it all off, but 57th minute, over the top pass, Ilicic finds Gosens, who blasted Holmes. They would get another goal late. 5-1 victory. Sassuolo would also get one in consolation. Big victory for Atalanta. Looks like they may be back in their goal-scoring ways. It's 2 weeks in a row now, pounding home the goals. Moving on to Cagliari hosting Napoli. A game we thought maybe Cagliari could make it difficult for Napoli. Not so much. The 25th minute, Zielinski bombing home a shot. Goal of the week candidate there. 60th minute, Cagliari would peg one back. Sotil would find João Pedro. He would get the goal right in front of in the 6-yard box, 1-1. However, Napoli would respond quickly. Di Lorenzo finds Zielinski, who in his Zidane-esque way chips it over Chiapatelli and gets a goal in. Goal of the week candidate, 2-1 at that point. Lico Giannis would get his second yellow in the 65th minute. When it's already hard to get possession with Napoli, Frank, it gets even harder when Lico Giannis makes it one man down for Cagliari.
And I rate Lico Giannis. I actually like him. But I like what he does going forward. I like his crossing. I like his passing. But defensively, he can tend to be a little bit of a liability, and Napoli exposed him.
Yeah, absolutely. And they would expose me even further in the 74th minute. Ball bouncing around in the box, courtesy of Petagna's persistence. Lozano would bang home the rebound. 3-1 at that point. Insigne would make it 4-1 at the end of the game.
Does Gattuso tell Petagna pretend that's a pie? The ball?
He must. I will feed you if you score.
You can eat if you're involved in goals. You get to eat.
Dude, I got to tell you, this reminds me, one of my favorite moments in the history of your show. This had to have been a year ago or more than a year ago. This was when Petagna was still on Spal, and I give Petagna credit. It looks like he's on a better diet regimen at Napoli because he was a lot fatter at Spal. But I can remember Richard making this comment. He said, "Have you guys seen Petagna lately? He's getting fatter." I was laughing my ass off. He was so good.
Yeah, it's true. But yeah, he's on a better regimen now. He does look trimmer, as does Lukaku at Inter as well.
Yeah.
I agree with Stevie that Sassuolo is in trouble. So that's definite times there. A game that we can easily pass over. I think no one decided to show up, and so we're not going to talk about it. Fiorentina, Bologna, 0-0 in that game. If you watch that game, I apologize for everyone here.
I hope nobody paid to go to that game. The 1,000 people that they let in, I hope they all got in for free.
I hope they paid them to go there.
I even looked for statistics. I'm like,
no, why bother?
12 shot, like 12. I think it was like a combined 12 shots or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Atalanta gets off 12 shots in like 30 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. A game slightly more interesting. Genoa hosting Lazio. In the 15th minute, Lord Zapata did his best jumping over SMS impersonation. Did foul him in the box. Smart play by Milinkovic-Savic to stick his feet in the box to get that penalty. Immobile would convert 1-0 at that point, and looked like maybe they would be clear sailing, but Genoa did make it difficult, and the new man, Eldor, a guy both Frank and I are really high on, beautifully dances around Leva, then assists Destro scoring goals again for Lazio, for Genoa, 1-1 in the 58th minute. That would be all the goal scoring, though Eldor would come very close at the end to get the win for Genoa. Unfortunately, he misses just wide. 1-1, that game ends like that. Parma-Torino, a game that could have been a snooze fest, but it was the Andrea Bellotti show. In the 8th minute, he would find Singo for the goal. A wonderful pass by him, a nice finish by Singo. 1-0 Torino at that point. And that will be the last goal scoring for majority of the game until very, very late, where Izzo would get a goal off a corner kick in the 88th. And then in the 5th minute of stoppage time, and Goyak would get a nice goal from another assist by Bellotti. Bellotti finding his passing boots in this one. 2 assists by him, 3-0 win by Torino. Good for them to get another win in this. They need it badly. Moving on to Roma and Sampdoria, and this is Frank was kind of alluding to this earlier. This was a very gritty, waterlogged game. Many yellow cards in this one. We had 8 yellow cards.
Gritty. I mean, the only time Sampdoria got the ball was when they were taking goal kicks and throw-ins. They had absolutely no interest in any kind of possession whatsoever in this game.
And I don't know if it was the water or they just didn't care. It was so much water on the pitch, but
and it's so frustrating to watch because I've seen a number of post-rain games at the Olimpico. And I know that Roma desperately wants a new stadium, and you can understand why for a number of reasons. That stadium, they must have on their pitch the worst drainage in the entire world. Like
drainage,
no drainage whatsoever. Like I've seen other stadiums, American football, soccer, football stadiums, and when it rains, once it stops raining, a couple of hours later, the pitch is virtually dry. Yeah. If it rains on a Wednesday in Rome, on Sunday, the pitch is going to still look like a lake. Did you see all the the seagulls would land in the water and then they'd attack and fly away?
Was that the game where the pigeons? No, that was the Lazio game where the pigeons flew away.
Oh, right. That was that matchup. Yeah.
Lago di Olimpico. Yeah.
There you go. Excuse me. So Roma, it was one-way traffic in this game. Early in the second half, Smalling did have opportunity. He had a header off a free kick that hit the crossbar. Adura would make another big point-blank save on Dzeko not too much later with a header attempt as well. But in the 72nd minute, we finally would get a goal. Cristante finally playing in a role more suitable for him. Yeah, he slides it off to the right to Karsdorp, who out wide does a low in-swinger that finds Dzeko. Nice redirection by him for the goal. That would be all the goals in that game. 1-0. I mean, that's all they needed. It was one-way traffic. Nothing that Sampdoria could have done. You feel bad for their players or for anybody or their fans, really. Roma just completely dominating them, and it kind of worries you that maybe Ranieri doesn't even care anymore. That they're not trying hard at all. I mean, Roma are good, but are they this good to completely dominate them, Alex?
They played enjoyable football in recent weeks, but you're right. Samp were just sandbagging too much. But honestly, I think Roma is that good. I give Fonseca a lot of credit because I think for him, they've got some talent, but I think that tactically, I think that they punch above their weight a little bit. So, I think that they are that good. They probably should have won more than 1-0, to be honest. It should have been a 3 or 4-0 type of game.
Yeah, Frank, this is a better performance by their defense. I mean, granted, it's Sampdoria, but seeing Mancini, the new man Roger, and obviously Smalling back there, they did very well. And having Cristante back in the midfield kind of helped, as opposed to put him in the defense.
I mean, when you can see what's coming, it's easy to defend.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
Roma had 65% possession in this game.
That's true.
And I'm not, I want to avoid committing blasphemy by saying this, but Fabio Quagliarella is not the Fabio Quagliarella of the last several years. So is he gonna make his runs? Is he gonna time things and get in the penalty area? Yeah, he's still a threat. But if you know what your opponent is going to do coming in, it's really easy to deal with. And I think Roma had an easy time of this for that. Sampdoria had, like I said, they had no interest in having any possession. Hi, Mark. Mark's here for the DraftKings takes in a little bit. So, but hang in there. Good to have you on, bud. So you have Janko pumping in crosses from the left, Augello getting around and pumping in crosses from the left, Candreva, pumping in crosses from the right, who Alex is familiar with. So that's what their game is now. Okay, get it wide, get it to these guys, and find Quagliarella. Well, then you got a three-man defense of Mancini, Smalling, and Ibanez. It's really, really hard to find Quagliarella on crosses. So, I think that this was an easy game for Roma to deal with. I think that the game against Crotone in midweek, I think that there'll be a few more challenges for them. But this was, like I said, I'm not ready to call Roma a great defense yet because of this particular match and how it played out.
Yeah, I think I'm more comfortable anointing to have a great midfield before I say a great defense. Their midfield I like a lot, and I've been talking about them all season long. A lot of people have. They really work well together. Yeah. So moving on, another entertaining game. Spezia hosting Hellas. Nzola looked like he had a marvelous chance early on to put Spezia up, but he hit the side net on a breakaway. He really needed to put that away. Unfortunately, he did not. Provedel would end up making some big saves in this game because Hellas did bring the pressure against them. But there wasn't much goal scoring until late in the 69th minute. Chabot with a really dumb second yellow. He gets kicked out of the game. That free kick actually led to a header opportunity by Colli that just missed. But just minutes later, in the 75th minute, a beautiful team play ended up going to Miguel Veloso, who chips it over the top to Faraoni. He hits it right one time to back across the goal. Zaccagni off his chest, bicycles it in. This is goal of the week right here, ladies and gentlemen. What a beautiful play by Hellas, and what a finish by Zaccagni. I mean, brilliant. Oh, that's a 10 out of 10 goal for me. I mean, easily.
Yeah, I've got 3 stars next to that, and I think every other goal that's in my goal of the week got 1 star next to it. So
yeah, it was such a brilliant. I mean, it's just a goal you probably see like Sassuolo or Atalanta score or something like that. Not Hellas, but hey, Zaccagni special. The team, the 3 main players who contribute to that goal: Zaccagni, Faraoni, and Veloso. They're all good together. So well done by them. That would be the only goal of the game. Hellas win 1-0. What a goal to win that game. The last 2 games, Benevento hosting Milan. Early on, Milan had some early chances. Tonali fed Diaz at one point. They had a screamer over the bar. 15th minute, Benevento trying to play out of their back, and unfortunately, they're not that good at that. Rebic goes for the loose ball. He gets taken out by Tuya. Kessie would end up converting on the penalty kick. But first, this is a little bit of controversy. Do we agree this is a penalty, or do we think it's maybe not a penalty, soft penalty?
I thought it was a little soft, and I know you're going to say, "Oh, of course, the Interista is going to say that."
Of course, the Interista is going to say that.
I thought it was maybe a little bit of an incidental body to body. Obviously, once it gets called, they're certainly not going to overturn that with VAR. It's listed. It's not. It wasn't the type of penalty where I'm going to see it and I'm going to scream corruption. Calciopoli now for Milan. Nothing like that. But I thought it was a little soft.
How about you, Frank?
It just comes down to the interpretation of the officials.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, there's another set of officials that have said no penalty. I mean, it's a coin flip what they're going to do in that situation. And as a Milan fan, I'm not going to complain because how many times over the years has that gone against us? So
yeah. Cool. Yeah, I agree too. I thought it was a soft penalty for sure, but I thought it was contact there. I could see why it could be called, but yeah, I'm kind of with Alex in this one where I do think it was a little bit soft there, but it is what it is, right? Goal was be scored by Kessie on the penalty, though Benevento would respond very, very well in the 20th minute. Insigne would get a shot off, hits off the post and stays out. A good opportunity for him. Things would be a little bit harder for Milan. In the 33rd minute, Tonali would get a red card for a high boot on the leg of Ionita. Gentlemen, do we think this was a red or do we think this is more a yellow card? Frank, I'll go with you first.
That's a red. That has been a red every single time it's been called, when it's caught live, when it goes to VAR. I had no problem with that. As you know, I have a bigger problem with all of a sudden this piling on of Sandro Tonali, that he can't cut it, that he's not good.
That's me on Twitter.
But it's not only Milan Twitter. It's
true.
going on across the board now. I mean, Inter fans now are saying, well, look, it looks like we dodged a bullet by giving up on him. Well, first of all, he's young. All right. Second of all, he just went from a team where he was the man, so he's gone from being a big fish in a small pond to now being a small fish in a big pond. Yeah. All right. He has to follow the act of the double pivot of Ismail Benasser and Frank Kessie, who had been fantastic from the restart and continue to be fantastic until the Benasser injury. There is so much that he has to live up to, and there's a lot, and there's a lot of pressure on him. On top of that, and Adam Digby made a very good point on this on Twitter, said he's never played in a double pivot, not professionally at least. He's always been the single in the middle of a three-man midfield. Where he kind of plays that Jorginho role, plays that Pirlo role. That's what he's suited at. He's not in a role where he can sit, partner and share that area of the pitch with another player. So there is some growing pains with him. The good news is, in a case like Sandro Tonali, he's very, very young. He should not be set in his ways. Correct. In a specific set of tactics. He should be able to learn and should be able to grow from this. And I'm not going to slam the door and say that this was a failure after only being with a team like this for 3 months.
Remember what everyone was saying about Alexis Salamakers last year? They're like, oh, why he's a waste. We wasted all this money. This year they're like, oh, he's a revelation. He's their best right winger. So give him time. I think
Milan Twitter can be the
devil.
I've got two things in common with them. We both live. We live on planet Earth, and we're Milan supporters, and that's it. Okay. They just jump on everything, and I love you guys dearly. Please don't take this personally. But you jump on every little negativity, and it's just like, Jesus, embrace this. This is a very good team. These are very good players. You've got new players, and a guy like Tonali, who has an incredible career ahead of him still, in my opinion, that's still trying to figure this out. Yeah. Give him time.
He's 20 years old. I get what you're saying. I see Milan Twitter get on him, and I also see Inter Twitter saying that they dodged a bullet, which is ridiculous. I would have loved the opportunity to make an investment in a player of his age and his potential. I was disappointed when he ended up at Milan, and I'm still disappointed to this day. Maybe I wasn't expecting as many growing pains as he's had, but I wouldn't be too discouraged with the guy, especially when Milan are in good shape in the midfield, even besides Tonali. And as far as him getting sent off, it was absolutely a red. I liked the way that Pioli handled it. From the anecdote that I heard, after he was sent off, Pioli gave him a hug and he said, "Listen, you're going to learn from this, right?" There wasn't a shouting session, there wasn't a condemnation. I think that Pioli looks at it as a learning experience for Tonali. I think he's going to look at it the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah, Phil makes a great point. He says not every young player is Haaland. Most 19, 20-year-olds take time, and I agree with this. I put up this post by Brian Johnson because I'm in agreement with him. He says, to be honest, the more I watch it, the less I understand what a red card is. 50-50. I didn't think this was a red. Was it stupid? Yes. Was his boot high? Yes. But studs up? Yeah. But I don't think there was malice in this. I've seen plays with there was certainly malice, and obviously it's a red card. I didn't see malice in this. It looked like he was going for the ball, and the guy kicked it, and he kicked the Ionita. So I thought it was a harsh red, but I can see why it was called because it has been called in the past, like Frank mentioned. So it's a difficult call. It's 50-50. It's hard to tell plays like this. They're not going to go VAR necessarily all the time, but it is what it is. He gets a red card, and Milan are forced to be one man down for the rest of the game with a team that's ready to go in Benevento. We would go into halftime by that scoreline 1-0. But coming out of the half, Milan were raring. Rebic on the counterattack in the 48th minute. He gets his pass blocked by the defender, but it goes out into no man's land. Leao with an amazing hustle to not only outpace Glick, but also the goalkeeper Montipo. Then he has the wherewithal to chip it over the goalkeeper to get a goal. Goal of the week candidate here, 2-0 by Milan. Frank, what hustle by Leao? I mean, the youngster, he's been given a lot of stick lately for not, putting all effort in. But I mean, what a play to out hustle the defender and the goalkeeper and then score a goal.
Yeah, I mean, I think that probably kills anyone from Milan Twitter talking about Leao is lazy.
Right.
Because he could have
he could have easily.
A lazy player, let me tell you, Mario Balotelli is not hustling after that ball. Okay? He's letting Glick get it. He's letting, and Milan have to reset and defend. Okay? That's the difference. Leao, I think, should change the mindset of some people just on that goal by itself. I think that he's committed. He puts in the work ethic. Are there times where he looks casual? Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, but you can say that about every player on the pitch. All right.
Yeah.
So and just a great finish. I think it was important for him. So, Steve disagrees that Leao, and he says Leao is lazy. All right, Steve and I disagree on individual players on Milan all the
Whatever
time.
you're taking is the opposite.
We thought about Gabbia a couple of months ago. So he's just going to do this on purpose. And then I'm going to go on his podcast on Monday and say, how about that work ethic from Leao? So hardest working player on the team. No, I mean, you're not lazy if you're trying to run down a ball and get past a couple players. Granted, Camille Glick and Montipo aren't going to remind you of Usain Bolt anytime soon.
Yeah.
But you still have to get through them to get to a ball cleanly and still finish. So,
do I think that Leao is better than Kylian Mbappe? Heck no. Anyway, so
Riyadh, we're realistic on this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Benevento would try to fight back in this one. Insigne had another opportunity that with a back heel kick that just missed it past Gigio. But then the 60th minute, our friend Krunic takes down Caprari in the box.
He's got to play 90 minutes tomorrow.
Oh, my goodness, right? He clear penalty, clear cut penalty on this one. Caprari steps up, misses completely wide. Somehow it's still 2-0 in that point. Lapadula in the 69th minute. Great turn on Romagnoli. Gigio with a big save to get down and make the save on him. 72nd minute, Calhanoglu also had a shot, hits off the post. And then in the 84th, Leao serves to Kessie, who also hits the post. You could have called this one the postman. So many posts in this game, but Milan win 2-0. A tough victory, go down 10 men and still find a way to get a victory against a team that looked like they were interested in getting some points off of them. So good result for Milan overall. And then the last game to round out the slate, Juve hosting Udinese. Game is 4-1. Juve with early pressure through Ronaldo and Ramsey. Musso looked big and looked good early, but the 31st minute, Ramsey with a great defensive play steals the ball right to Ronaldo, who does his thing, scores a great goal. Goal of the week candidate there in the 31st minute. 49th minute, Udinese turnover. Ronaldo finds Chiesa, who scores a goal far post, 2-0 in the 49th minute. 57th minute, we thought we had a goal back. Striger Larsen gets a great header, but it hits the crossbar and goes out. And then, to make matters worse, when you don't score, usually the opposition does. 69th minute, Samir with a short pass to DePaul, very short. Bentancur steals it, finds Ronaldo. He scores on the breakaway. There were some opportunities by Zegalar. He hits a post in the 73rd. He did get a goal in the 90th minute, but Dybala in stoppage time would get a goal. Had a nice little breakaway, chipped it over the keeper. 4-1, Juve win. Nice big win against Udinese, gentlemen. Lots of goals this week. And like I said, the black and blue teams scored bunches of goals. But, I mean, just goals around the league. Where do you want to start with this?
Alex, go ahead.
Well, so I think it goes without saying, because I don't think there needs to be a whole lot of suspense with goals of the week. The Zaccagni bicycle might have been one of the goals of the season so far. No question. That was the goal, the way that there's no competition. The other four that I really liked from the weekend, we've mentioned a few of these during the course of conversation. I love Lukaku's goal, one-on-one was just tremendous. The guy is so immense and strong. I actually thought that despite the fact that Lautaro scored a hat trick, I could even argue that Lukaku was the man of the match in that game. He was so impressive in that win over Crotone. To give Milan some credit, the Leao curler I thought was beautiful. That was a top 5 goal this week, no question. You know, you'd mentioned, Richard, in the rundown that Zielinski had a couple of goals for Napoli. I thought the second one where he just embarrassed the defender in the box.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And the exclamation he put on that was awesome. Both his goals in that game were really nice. And then the Atalanta, the Pessina goal was awesome. So that's my top 5 this week. But number 1 with a bullet was Zaccagni, and it's not close.
I agree with that. I'll do my top 5 next, Frank. Honorable mention for me, everyone's going to be surprised, is Leao's honorable mention for me. Ronaldo's first is my also honorable mention. Coming at number 5 for me, Lukaku with his pirouette. I really like that goal. Like Frank said, that's a man's goal there. Coming at number 4, Zielinski's first goal, that powerful shot he had. Number 3 for me, Zapata's second. The assist by Freuler I just thought was out of this world. Beautiful back heel assist to him. Number 2 for me, Zielinski, that goal that you mentioned, Zidane-esque over Chipotelli and beating the keeper. Great goal by Zielinski, and obviously Zaccagni is hands down number 1. That was just a beautiful goal from beginning to end.
Yep. I don't have any honorable mentions. Number 5, I'm going to go with Pessina's goal. I thought that the pass from Ilicic was sublime. The finish from Pessina was great, and I think Pessina deserved a goal.
Yeah.
All of this controversy about Papu Gomez, and I mean, I think Pessina's given you a reason why Gomez is frozen out. I mean, you're seeing Ilicic come back to fitness, but you're seeing Matteo Pessina handling this role competently. The comment that I made, the description I made when watching the game, I said Pessina's playing that role with more simplicity. You know, he's not taking as many risks as a Papu Gomez would take. He's passing, he's helping his team keeping the ball, and then he's trying to get in some dangerous positions. So good for him to see him finally get on the score sheet. Leao was number 4 for me. Lukaku's man goal was number 3 for me. Zielinski's second was number 2, and then the Zaccagni goal was the goal of the week. For me, in my opinion, it's just as far as the rest of the games, I have to keep making sure I have a pulse, and I have to keep taking my temperature because I'm living in a Serie A season where Mattia Destro is scoring goals.
Yeah.
I'm not used to this.
Yeah.
He did it again. An absolute failure at Roma, failure at Milan. Seems to be finding some footing at Genoa. And it looks like Balladini has a mix of forwards that he can rotate between him, Scamata, and Shomurodov. The Atalanta, Sassuolo were just so unbelievably stretched. I watched that game. I could not believe. I mean, Atalanta should have had even more than 5.
Yes,
it was shocking to see from Sassuolo.
This looked like last year's Atalanta. This is what it looked like. It was great performance by them.
Yep.
Ilicic just pulling strings left and right.
Yep. And then, Juve to see, Ronaldo score 2 non-penalties, was good to see there. And they were actually decent goals. They weren't even, I think he had the one that they weren't even tap-ins or anything.
No, they're good shots. Yeah.
So that kind of, any haters, they're kind of shushed. So, I mean, it was a great way to see Serie A come back. There were 33 goals. Fiorentina and Bologna didn't get the memo. They're still in siesta. Hopefully they come back and try and do something this week. We'll see. But that's that's a wrap on this week. So
yeah, big game looming on the horizon tomorrow.
Yep, Milan and Juve. Let's get into that first and let's preview that game, gentlemen. Some concerns and scares that this game could get called off. We should point out that Juve are dealing with some COVID issues. Juan Cuadrado and Alexandro not available to play.
Where have I seen this before?
Where have we seen this before? So that's something that I want to address some questions here. First of all, we've got Riyad Ramdani asking, can Teo Hernandez keep Cristiano Ronaldo in his back pocket? Hell no. Teo Hernandez is not in there to defend. And if he has to defend for long periods of time, you can count on a yellow card. That role is going to be shared between the likes of Romagnoli, Chiar, and Calabria, which makes a lot more sense because Ronaldo tends to operate from the left, which will be Milan's right. You very rarely see him going over to Teo's side. So Teo doesn't have to worry about that at all. He will have to worry about whatever comes down the right-hand side, which might appear to be Federico Chiesa at this point. I don't think he has to, with Cuadrado out of the mix, that maybe makes his role a little bit easier without Cuadrado coming down and bombing down against him. But we are seeing two teams that are coming into this game. Milan need to win to keep at the top of the table. They need to win to, I think it just further validates maybe their cause for a Scudetto. I'm still going to say top four until top four is clinched. And then after that, whatever place you can get. And then you have Juve, who need this game because a loss here puts them at this stage of the season with a game in hand 13 points behind first. Would you have imagined that about Juventus?
No.
Even this Juventus with some transition with Andrea Pirlo. So This is a desperate game for both teams. I think it's going to be very, 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 very tight. For me, well, to try to predict a winner in this is crazy.
Because Juve has been in good form lately. Juve has been in good form.
They've been in very good form. Milan, I can't mess with the streak. Even if it is Juve, I can't mess with the streak. Milan are scoring 2 or more goals every game. All right, and I'm not doing this because I'm a homer. I'm doing this because I think Milan will win this game. They're going to win 2-1. It's going to be a narrow game. It's going to come down to some kind of an odd goal, and it's going to come from somewhere we didn't expect. That's usually how these games work.
Leao from Gabia? No, it's not Steve.
Could be a set piece where Bonucci losing his marker. Okay, that Bonucci-Delict combination at the center of defense, you can get at that, even with what Milan are going to be not having Ibra or some of the guys at their disposal. So I'm going narrowly, Milan 2-1, an odd goal is going to win this for the Rossoneri. Alex, you have two teams that you have to hate equally, or maybe one more than the other. So I think your actual prediction is that you would hope that there's an unfortunate explosion at the San Siro and that these two clubs no longer exist. But
well, I'm gonna my prediction, and I really am feeling this, and it also would happen to be probably the most convenient result. I'm thinking a draw here. I'm going to go a 2-2. I'll give goals to Ronaldo and Chiesa. And I'll give goals to Leao and Theo Hernandez on the Milan side. So I don't know. I think it's one of those types of games where, and like you mentioned, Frank, it's so important to both of these teams that's why I almost feel like a draw maybe feels like my most likely result. I will, though, from a Milan perspective, I made this statement in the last episode I did with Jerry on Monday. And I'll make it again for you guys. I really do feel that if Milan are able to win this match, then I think that they could probably be considered. And I know it's still early in the season, but if Milan win this match outright, I think they can be considered odds-on Scudetto favorites at this point. If you look at the odds makers, the way that they have it right now, I believe Inter are the odds-on favorites in most of the books. But I think if Milan can really make a definitive statement against Juventus and take all 3 points, then especially if they win it really convincingly, then I think maybe the odds makers might even consider looking in Milan's direction. I think this is a huge opportunity for them. At the same time, and let me revise my prediction a little bit, because when I predict 2-2, I think one of those Juventus goals, the one that Ronaldo scores, will be a penalty, because, guys,
of course,
it seems like an awfully big game to allow Milan to win 2-1. So maybe around the 85th minute, 88th minute is when Ronaldo
goes down. Yeah, that's
Richard. You going to put yourself out there on this one, or I've got 2-1 to Milan. Alex is going for a 2-2 draw. Where are you at?
Do we know if Zlatan's back?
The possible lineup I'm looking at does not show him back.
Okay. Not that it was going to change my mind or anything at all. Milan has played really great lately. We've seen how they play without Kjaer, without Zlatan, that they can still perform. The youngsters have shown up. The kids are all right. They're just doing some great things. Leao scoring a goal. I mean, Rebic. I mean, everyone's contributing on this team. And it really is a team. You can see this when off the pitch. This really does look like a team. They're all in unison together, all on the same page. But ever since that Champions League game with Juventus recently, where they won against Barcelona, they've kind of turned things around. They started looking very strong. Last couple of games, they started putting up goals as well, and maybe they finally got it right. Who knows? The opponents have maybe not have been up to like Napoli level or something like that, but they still get wins. They're still scoring goals. So Napoli's coming to this, Juventus are coming to this with a lot of confidence in this, and everything indicates it's going to be a draw, right? Two big teams in a big game, crucial game, like you mentioned. If Milan win outright, they got a huge lead on Juventus, and Inter has a big lead as well. Or if Juve win it, they're back into this, right? So it could go either way. But the way kind of like Frank said, you don't want to mess with the streak. The way this Milan team has been playing. I think it's going to be. I do see maybe a dodgy penalty coming in there at some point with Juventus, but I think Milan win outright 3-1.
Okay. So we've got the homers going with the winner. We've got the neutral going for the draw. So
sounds about right.
Sounds about right. So nobody's surprised here. Casey's saying 3-1 to Milan. Leao, Çalhanoğlu, and Rebic for Milan. Ronaldo for Juve. Not bad. I like it. So earlier on, before all that happens at 9 a.m. East, there's 7 games. We get multi-calcio, and DraftKings has been nice enough to put up another slate where the big contest for $15 wins you $2,000.
I thought you said the prize was going to be $15. I'm like, who's going to play for that? I'm not doing that.
So I thought we could have a little fun with this and maybe throw in a few guys in one lineup. I'm going to enter multiple lineups. I'll enter one with guys that we're going to pick, and then we'll get on to Who on Calcio Twitter. So let me just run through the games that are going on. So Atalanta's hosting Parma. Bologna's hosting Udinese. Crotone hosts Roma. Lazio hosting Fiorentina. Sampdoria hosting Inter. And then you have Sassuolo hosting Genoa. And then you have Torino hosting Hellas Verona. So I took a few notes on just what I just saw for pricing. Pricing's okay. The most expensive player is Luis Muriel of Atalanta. You got a 50,000 salary cap. We have to pick 2 forwards, 2 midfielders, 2 defenders, a goalkeeper, and then a utility, which is any outfield player. Luis Muriel comes in as the most expensive at 11,200. The assumption is that he'll start since Duvan Zapata started and played most of Sunday. And you would expect Gasperini to rotate. Now, Atalanta is also the biggest favorites playing a Parma team that can't defend. So that's the good news. The bad news is that they're ridiculously expensive. And to further compound this, the warning that I would give you if you are interested in loading up on 2 or 3 Atalanta players is that Gasperini is one of those guys that will substitute just about anybody. The last time we had a Serie A slate, Josip Ilicic was an amazing play, was off to a good start, and Gasperini yanked him at halftime. So killed everything I had because I had him in every lineup I played. So that's the thing that you have to worry about with Atalanta. Buyer beware. But when you look at the Atalanta players, they're all expensive, as if they're going to blow away Parma, which they should. Muriel's 11.2. Ilicic is 9,300. The interesting thing is Duvan Zapata is horribly mispriced. He's only 7,900. Yeah. So if he starts, I think you have to lock him up. You have to lock and load, and you've got to play him. All right. But I'm going under the assumption that Muriel starts. I can't play him at that price, even though he's so efficient. I'll give you some other players and some other prices right now. Ciro Immobile is questionable for the game at home against Fiorentina, but he is 10,000 by comparison against the Fiorentina team that has gotten clean sheets in the last 2 games, okay, including Juventus. But Immobile has scored 6 goals in his last 4 games, which I'm sure Jerry has told you plenty, Alex, that he's starting to get among the goals. So that's where I would look at, that's where I would probably start by looking at it forward. Now, the safest play, if you're going to play in a 50-50 contest or a double up, and these are contests that you're putting in $5 trying to win $10, and all you got to do is beat half the field, okay, that you're entered with. For me, the safest play, if you're going to play DraftKings tomorrow morning, is Domenico Berardi of Sassuolo. He's 10,400, but he's going to play a Genoa team that is going to have absolutely no interest in having the ball. They're going to do a lot of defending, and it's going to be a game where Berardi is going to rack up crosses, shots, and he's going to create a lot of chances. Okay, whether those chances go in or that sort of thing is another story. So Domenico Berardi is somebody that you would probably want to play safely if you're doing some of those cash games. And I would even say you could probably play him in tournaments, because I think a lot of people are going to play Atalanta guys, or another team that's in a very good spot is this Roma team that plays the Crotone team that Inter just scored 6 on. And it's a game environment that is going to suit Roma much like it suited Inter. Crotone is probably going to have a little bit more of the ball, and I think Roma's far more effective when they can counter than they can when they are asked to monopolize possession like they did at home against Sampdoria. So based on that, here's Roma. I mean, and the pricing's pretty affordable. Edin Dzeko, their leading scorer, is 8,700. If he doesn't start, then it's Borja Muriel, who's only 6,800. Mkhitaryan is huge in these counterattacking situations and is usually involved in those goals at 8,600. Veretout takes the penalties, takes the set pieces. He's 7,600. Okay. Casey's saying Lautaro can be a good bet without Lukaku. Lautaro's 10,200. I actually would rather play Alexis Sanchez at 8,900 because Sampdoria is a team that is going to cede a lot of possession. They're going to probably put a lot of attention on Lautaro. And for me, Alexis is probably going to, and he has, Alex, you can attest to this as an Inter fan, he's going to take some corner kicks and he's going to be involved in some certain set piece situations. He's going to take some of that away from Brozovic. So if Alexis is in the starting lineup, I'd rather play him at 8,900 versus a goal-dependent Lautaro at 10,200. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And Alexis is he's not necessarily ever going to be a goal-scoring machine at this point, but he's an assist machine. I mean, he gets very, very involved when it comes to goal contributions.
Okay. So if you're going to play cash, guys that are safe, Berardi, Alexis Sanchez if he starts. Veretout at 7,600 is at a discount. Values, Nicola Barella is stupid cheap at 4,500 in a game where Inter is going to dominate possession and he is going to be around the penalty area a lot and should be able to pay that off with shots, drawing some fouls, and Barella could even get an assist in open play. You mentioned Matteo Darmian, possibly starting at left wing back. He's only 4,000. So I think that if he starts, he's another absolute value that you play. So the Inter guys are going to have a little bit of value with rotation and with Lukaku likely not playing, and they're going to rack up a lot of these statistics because they're going to have a possession superiority over Sampdoria. It's not going to suit what they want to do in terms of game flow, but the crosses and the shots and the chances are going to be there. You kind of get what I'm saying. But when I look at this, I'm of the opinion that if we're gonna build a Serie A sit-down lineup, I think we stack Roma out of all of these. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. Do we start with Dzeko at 8,700? Now, I'm also gonna give a caveat here. This is based on what the lineups are tomorrow morning. So take what I'm saying as guidelines, but I may not play anything I say here because the lineups could totally change.
And are you asking me because you're going to give me half of the winnings if we win?
We'll figure something out. We'll figure something out. So, all right. So Roma against Crotone. All right. Dzeko, he did pick up a minor muscular problem. Could initially be rested Wednesday against Crotone. So that's good news. So let's take Dzeko out of there. I say Borja Mayoral at 6,800 makes our lineup. What do you think, guys?
I like it.
Okay. So Mayoral at forward. And then do we stack him with Veretout for the free kicks and the possible penalty opportunity? Or do we stack him at 7,600? Or do we stack him with Mkhitaryan at 8,600? Knowing that if the lineups come out tomorrow, Mkhitaryan doesn't start, Veretout does, we can always go down and save the $1,000.
If Mkhitaryan starts, yeah, I think he should be in there.
Mickey.
Okay, so we're going to go Mayoral and Mickey in our midfield. And let's look at Roma's defenders to see what our wingbacks look like.
Pass.
Adriano's saying Veretout. We don't need the center backs, but the wingbacks qualify as defenders. Bruno Perez at 5,800.
It's all right.
Okay, and let's do this. Let's do this for the other defender. We're going to play Darmian. Okay, at 4,000. All right, so we have Muriel, Mkhitaryan, Bruno Perez, and Darmian. We have an average of 6,200 to spend. An average of 6,200 to spend on 4 more spots. Another place we can save at goalkeeper. Now, this is a huge risk, and it's just a deep tournament play, and it's not what we're going to do on our lineup. But Emil Audero at 3,900 might be a very, very good play. Yeah. Against an Inter that's not going to have Lukaku, but is still going to shoot a lot. I don't think I have the stomach for this build to do that. We can get to Silvestri at 4,600 if we think Torino was a fluke.
Done. Do it.
Or do we do Musso at 4,700 against Bologna?
Oh,
I'm thinking
that is tough.
God, I'm thinking Silvestri.
Yeah, I did too because they're so haphazard. Torino is.
I think the win bonus is there too for Verona. I think they beat Torino tomorrow, so we want to take advantage of this. That gets us to 67.33 on average for a forward, a midfielder, and a utility. If we spent up on Muriel, and let's just throw him in the utility for that leaves us at 4,500 a player. So
we got Eder. So we got Eder, right?
that makes it tough. All right, so we go to Sassuolo, and if we let's throw
Boga.
Musso all day. Bologna has no attack, but that concerns me, Casey. If Bologna has no attack, right. Because if they score 1 and Musso doesn't get any saves, that's a negative number for us. Berardi is 10.4. If we put him in for the safety, that gives us an average of 4,900. Jeremy Boga is 4,900 as well. Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So here's what we'll do, and we're going to do this. We're going to partially do this in honor of having Alex as our guest. Okay, that we get some Inter players in there. All right. So now we're left with 4,900, and let's get all the way down here for a utility. Bobby Gaggs is 4,900. Bobby Gaggs is more expensive than Nicola Barella.
Now, that doesn't make the slightest bit of sense. I mean, I expect Bobby Gaggs to start in this match for what that's worth, but the same price as Barella, I don't get that.
Okay, I'd rather have the Barella and the $400 savings.
Yeah.
And the $400 to play with if these lineups change. Okay, so here's our lineup. Okay, our forwards are Muriel and Domenico Berardi. Midfielders are Mkhitaryan and Jeremy Boga. Defenders are Bruno Perez and Matteo Darmian. Goalkeeper is Silvestri, and our utility player is Barella.
I like it.
So we're not going to play the Atalanta. We're not going to spend up on the Atalanta guys at all. We'll go with this. It's safe. Boom. And I won't play with this. If any of this changes and none of these guys are starting, I'll message you guys in the morning, and we'll do that. So other players that you guys could probably take a look at if you're going to play this. Like I said, Lautaro's in a good spot at 10,200, but Alexis Sanchez at 8,900 for a better floor of points makes more sense. Atalanta's really, really expensive. But Muriel's 11.2 and is probably going to be the starting striker. Ilicic is 9,300, but Malinovsky's in there at 94. I didn't check Pacina's price. I'm not expecting him to start. The value plays at forward. Quagliarella is 6,700 if you think Sampdoria catch Inter on the break. Scamacca should start for Genoa at 6,300, and Sassuolo is not the most airtight defense, as evidenced from their effort against Atalanta. If you really, really need a savings, for Hellas Verona, Salcedo is 3,500. And doesn't need a whole lot to get you to where you need to be. Midfield values we talked about: Barella at 4,500, Boga at 4,900. We like Jan Karamo for Parma is 3,500. And again, against an Atalanta that doesn't defend well, and he could possibly get involved and pump some shots. Now, defender, we went with Bruno Perez and Matteo Darmian. We mentioned Darmian is a very good value. Other plays, Faraoni for Verona at 4,500 is in really good form right now.
Yeah, he is.
Wilfred Singo, if he gets the start for Torino, is only 41. If you want to spend up, Domenico Crescito for Genoa at 5,600 should be taking a lot of their free kicks, takes Genoa's penalties. It's worth a stab. And then goalkeeper, I think our favorite plays are Juan Musso, 4,700, Silvestri, 4,600. And then if you're really, really frisky, if you think Inter's going to struggle, Audero is only 3,900 against an Inter that's probably not going to have Lukaku. So that's another way you could probably go. I'm not recommending it, but if you want there's so many goals scored in Serie A, it's really, really hard to pay for a high-priced goalkeeper. It's
Right.
Because at that point you're hoping he gets a win, you're hoping he gets a clean sheet, and that's what's going to have to pay off his salary. So, but that's our team. We've got Muriel, Berardi, Boga. Help me out, guys. Who else do we think? Mkhitaryan, thank you. Perez, Bruno Perez, Darmian, Silvestri, and then Barella. So I'm throwing in a little interstack in Alex's honor. We're going to say that the goals, they're going to have so much possession and bombing forward that the cheap Inter guys could stand to pay off better than Lautaro could. So
Now to make amends, Alex, you need to go out and buy Powerball, Mega Millions, and Powerball tickets for us, and then we can split all the winnings. So
I'd probably have better luck with that than on my sports bets. I need to start doing more of this DraftKings because I get just ruined every week on my Serie A bets lately. So I may need to look to other avenues.
Yeah. So that is our lineup. It is a risky one because we're not playing any Atalanta guys who are in an unbelievable spot against Parma, who should score a lot, who might end up scoring 3 goals without breaking a sweat. It's just the volatility of a midweek game and Gasparini getting really crazy with his substitutions.
Yeah.
That scare me. I think that the Roma situation's a little bit more solid against a team that leaks just as many goals and are cheaper. You can fit them. So, okay. So that's the DraftKings stuff. That is the preview of this week and the Milan Juventus stuff. Let's get on with it, guys. This is what everybody really comes here for. They listen to us. Yeah, DraftKings is doing Serie A, Anthony, tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. for the seven games that are playing at the same time. The top contest is a $15 buy-in to win $2,000. So, so we were just going over. You want to play this again? You want to go back and play this again on the YouTube? We gave you a bunch of ideas of where you can go initially to help build your lineup. So, but let's move on to the world's most popular hashtag game, Who Won Calcio Twitter. Alex, your first go of being in the hot seat, if you will.
I love this
for Who Won Calcio Twitter. I'll go first with the one that I nominated here. This came from a betting site, Bovada, at Bovada Official. The little boy in red grew up and became soccer star Cristiano Ronaldo. Well played here. It looks like some sort of little martial arts, and just one kick and down he goes.
That's awesome. Oh, that's awesome. All right.
I love it.
I got the next one. Next one comes in from Paris Snitch, an Inter fan. Says, this picture is Radu and Hadanovic both attempting a save. Radu just standing there. Oh, nicely done.
Excellent stuff. All right, so we move on. This is from our friend Uncle Sharma at rsharmzz. This is a guy that has gotten it close to the cup and hasn't been able to knock it in yet. Maybe this is the one. I didn't know Skriniar used to play at PSG with Dino and Poch.
I guess long hair was in back then, except for Ronaldinho, who had the longest hair later on. But
yeah,
that's a great picture. That's a great picture. All right, next one coming in is Michael Lisi. There's a picture from Sansone saying, best caption wins a signed Juve jersey signed by me. And he says, American Tourist wins contest to pose with all of Juve's Champions League trophies from the current millennium.
Nice. Very, very clever. The next one is from nominated by Gianni Delicoli. This is at FCIM Thomas. Sandro Tonali versus Benevento, skills, goals, highlights, biggest young talent in the world, and it's just a picture of him in a suit.
you can even see I'm the second comment on there. I went crazy for that one.
Yeah. You can't unsee it. I mean, he looks just like him. It is uncanny. It is uncanny.
Yep.
Okay, this one comes in from Nino at ASR Curva Sud 1927. Happy to see Edin Dzeko scored a decisive goal for official Roma in their first water polo win today. Fantastic start to 2021.
Very nice. Very creative. Very creative. Our friend George Whitmer is on the board at Jersey SoCal. When you go back to Cagliari, do you expect to win on the first game back with the club? Fuck, I don't know.
Another one from Nino. He says UFC President Dana White has offered Sandro Tonali a spot at UFC 257 after that Liu Kang Mortal Kombat kick on Arturo Ionita. Nike and Adidas frantically creating knee guards for week 16.
All right, next one.
Oh, this is funny.
All right. From Paris Snitch again, back on the board. AC Milan Best Goals Compilation 2021. Good after season. It's all penalties. Someone in the Twitter world is bitter.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Okay, this one comes. Thank you for Brian Johnson for pointing us this direction. This comes from Stuart at Stewie 1899. Uberfax tweeted out, the mouth of a jellyfish is also its anus. And he tweeted out, Juventus and Inter fans can relate. Oh, that's good.
Well played. Well played. All right. Our friend Nima from the Italian football podcast at Nima Tavrud, fan base streaming of Papu Gomez. They reheat a serving of Eder. Elite trolling.
This doesn't make me laugh as much as it makes me cry.
Yeah. Well, why don't we just stick with Nima? His next one is why just Eder? Go for Graziano Pelle, Giaccarini, and let Antonio Conte reunite the band. I mean, after Arturo Vidal and Kolarov, they worked out so well. What could possibly go wrong?
Excellent. All right. So those were the nominees this week. Is that it? Oh,
no, there's more. Alex Lisi,
not for humor, but for spreading facts. This is another. This is from at J Salvato 31. Here to remind you, salty ass Inter, Juve, Roma, and Napoli fans at Milan have conceded the most penalties by far. Super Gigio just saves our asses. Okay. We've really conceded 14 penalties this season.
Oh, yeah, that's probably, I guess. There's one last one. This one comes courtesy Fede Nerazzurra is the one pointed in our direction, but this guy actually comes from PSG, and it's PSG contact Inter for Eriksson to say they are not interested in him. So
that's right up there with the one. That's right up there with the one with the Roma fan that said Lazio was interested in Mustafi, and now medical staff is out there to check the mental health of the of the front office. Oh my! All right, so we got to pick one out of those, huh?
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Whew, those are tough ones.
Alex, you do the honors.
Well, okay, I'm going to go with the one that it didn't make me laugh the hardest today, only because I saw it yesterday already.
Right.
I thought Michael Lisi's tweet with the caption of Weston McKennie, you know, the imaginary trophy, all the American tour, all the Juventus trophies, Champions League trophies. That one to me, it was the perfect caption for that photo.
That was a good one. Yeah. These are tough.
That's a good one. It's definitely a finalist. I think the Bovada one at the very beginning is in there.
Yeah. The Cristiano Ronaldo one where he falls down.
Yep. That was good too.
I think that's in there, and then I
like Perisnich's. Well, both of his really. The Milan compilation of penalty kicks, and then that was good, and also the Handanovic and Radu attempting to make a save. Yeah. I'm gonna go with the penalty kicks.
You're gonna go with the penalty kick video.
I'm gonna go with the penalty kicks.
I'm with Alex. I like the I like the shade being thrown at Juve fans here with that caption. I got to go with Lisi. I got to give Lisi a win here.
Yeah.
There it is. There's the winner.
All right. So let's just I'll go ahead and send Lisi the congratulations here. It's too bad he's not in the chat to listen to this. Let's see. Casey, thank you for the kind words, by the way. Very nice of you.
Thank you very much.
And with that, we're going to put a bow on this edition of Serie Sit Down. Shameless plug time, and we're going to give the floor to our guest, Alex.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I mean, for those listening to this, you'd probably be a fan of one of my side hustles, and that's the Calcio Connection podcast. Maybe some of you listen already, and I thank you if you do. If you haven't, Jerry Mancini and I host a Serie A related pod. We do cover all the teams. We focus heavily on the clubs we support, Inter and Lazio, but we do squeeze in plenty of talk about the other clubs. We've even given Milan some love this season with the way that they've been playing. So Calcio Connection podcast, you can find us on every platform you get your pods. You can find us on Twitter at CalcioConPod. And I also encourage you guys, as Frank mentioned in my introduction at the start of the show, I do a daily sports talk show focusing more on American sports. Do mix in some soccer and some calcio talk occasionally. Frank Crivello joins me frequently. He's going to be on this Friday, I think around 3:45 p.m. I got to get Richard on as well, especially since all the American soccer heads, they want to talk about somebody like Weston McKennie, who was in Bundesliga before. So I do want to get you on to talk about his time at Schalke.
Done.
On onsideradio.com. And you can also listen on a couple of apps, the Radio FM app or the MyTuner radio app. Just search for Onside Radio. And I host a show every afternoon from 3 until 6 p.m. Eastern. And the podcasts are all over the place. You can catch up on all that. So I'd really appreciate it if you support it. For those of you in here who are also fans of American sports, Jerry Mancini is in the chat now, trash talking me. Jerry joins me occasionally as well. So, yeah, make sure you check it out, onsideradio.com.
Yep.
That's
Richard?
awesome. Yes. Well, as always, thank you, Alex, for joining us tonight. It's a pleasure to finally get you on here on our show. So thank you again. You can follow me at R_KHARMAN. It's right there. Anywhere, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. Also follow our YouTube page. We try to put some videos, some clips out there as well to keep you entertained. So let us know how we're doing and stuff like that. Jerry, we see you there. And yeah, thank you very much.
And
Jerry, we talked about how
he's asking if this is my bed. This is my bed, actually. I'm sitting in my bed talking to you guys.
No, there you go.
Nice.
There you go. Jerry, all we did was talk about how insufferable you would be if Lazio ever won a Scudetto. So
and how Lazio are the most hated team in Serie A.
Yeah, you're turning Lazio into the villains of the league. Like, I actually enjoy Juve people now. So Lazio will never win one. Lovely. All right. If I can ever get my finger, there we go. At FPC_21 on Twitter. As Alex mentioned, do check out his show, Man of the Match. It's at Onside Radio, and it's onsideradio.com, correct?
Yes, onsideradio.com.
Yep, I'll be I'll be chatting it up with Alex on Friday, 3:45 Eastern. So definitely looking forward to that. Always that's 15 minutes that goes by fast. You won't believe it. It really does. So, Serie Sit Down. We have our own channel on Apple Podcasts and SoundCloud. We're also on Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever there are podcasts. There is Serie Sit Down. You can also find us on Twitter at Serie Sit Down on there, at Serie Sit Down on Instagram. Find us on our Facebook page. We were live for the first time on Twitter and on Facebook. Richard just continues to find these, technological advances. I do none of this. I just come up here and talk.
Yeah.
So thanks to him for thanks to you, Richard, for continuing to do that and branching us out, if you will. If you check us out here on the YouTube channel, please subscribe and drop a like. If you've done so for the first time, it helps us out immeasurably. And we really appreciate it. Chat, you guys are awesome as always. Thank you so much. appreciate all of your efforts, your questions, your comments helped make for the great talking points. So with that in mind, that is it for and Alex, we're going to have you on again.
I appreciate it. I'm counting on it.
Sounds good. Sounds good. And well done, guys. And looking forward to the games tomorrow. Looking forward to getting together with you guys around this time next Tuesday night. For Alex, for Richard, I'm Frank. And as always, make sure you tell your paisans about us. Ciao.
1, 2, make it big.